Greetings, and welcome to episode number 30 of the Dharma Junkie podcast. In this episode, my guest is Ibrahim Sharkas. Ibrahim and I first came in contact through just networking on Facebook, and I was going through a bit of a dark night of the soul one evening, and I posted something online, and he actually reached out to me, and we had a brief conversation afterwards, and I'll tell you what, it's just one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and his mission is love. And spreading love and increasing the amount of love in the world, kind of similar to what was going on in the late 60s, early 70s. He truly feels that love is the answer. And you know what? I agree with him, because without love, what else have you got? In fact, he is so dedicated to spreading this message of love that he started what is called Daily Drop of Love, which is actually a phone service that, you know what? Listen to the episode. He can explain it better than I can. Without further ado, Ibrahim Sharkas.
You might catch yourself sliding in and out of a hallucinatory state. Just relax and enjoy it. Just relax and enjoy it.
This is an experiment in mind formation. Information. Forming, controlling, operating your mind and your brain. We're using digital techniques to overload, scramble, confuse, unfocus your mind. The natural state of the brain is chaos. Chaos is beautiful.
Plus some other things on the side. So another thing that I'm doing is also I'm in the process of trying to get grants secured for a nonprofit that I want to tie into directly with my graduate work. Right. So I'm going to see how that's going to fit in, but how do I not spread myself too thin? I think it comes down to the core of everything of what I'm doing. And as long as I'm operating from that, it's easy to flow through it. You know what I mean? If I didn't have a reason behind the things I'm doing, then I personally, knowing myself, would probably fall short and not continue.
Right on. Do you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself to anybody that might be listening?
Yeah. And, yeah, this is like in the conversation. Like, I don't know.
Well, we just kind of jumped right in.
Myself.
Yeah, no, we jumped right in, but it's cool. I kind of like it like that sometimes.
Okay, cool. So you want me to just go for introducing myself?
Yeah, introduce yourself. Kind of, just introduce people to you and, what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Cool. So number one, I'm a human, just like everybody who's probably listening to this outside of AI and robots, I'm assuming. And two, probably more importantly, my name. My name is Ibrahim. So it's translated into the States, it's Abraham. I mean, that's the closest thing, or Ibrahim. But from the Arabic tone of the name, it's Ibrahim. So one thing that I currently do now, which we were talking, I'll bet briefly of before I guess the recording even started, is I'm currently completing my graduate work in positive psychology out of the UK. L7, so it's listed on a different scale than a master's, I guess, as a core curriculum in the States, but it's the same relevancy, just a different scale of grading, which really excites me. So that's a big thing. I just published my third book. I do a lot of poetry. Poetry is probably my favorite medium to write and explore a lot of topics. And my dissertation, or the main topic of writing that I'm doing in graduate school, has a lot to do with the poetry that I've been writing, more so examining a lot of people from an Islamic background or a Sufi background, like Rumi and Shams's teacher. And I'm trying to attribute that to this new topic that I'm choosing, which I haven't told anybody about. So you may be the first person that knows outside of the person who's mentoring me within school. So the topic, it's exploring spirituality from the lens of humanity. And I am attaching certain mediums from the past, like poetry and other variants of theology, and trying to scope it from the lens of the character strength of humanity. Do you know what I mean by the character strength of humanity?
I mean, if you want to give everyone a definition of what you mean.
Oh, yeah, sure. So it's not even my definition. So I'm going off of a man who coined the world of positive psychology, Martin Seligman, and he has multitudes of different character strengths. And one of his character strengths is he lists as humanity, and humanity has three different avenues. One is love, one is social intelligence, and the other is kindness. And for me, looking through spirituality, in 2020, I think there's such warped versions, in my perspective, humbly, of what spirituality really is. So I wanted to see, is there a way through scholarly references and studies that have been researched, throughout history,
Right.
can we attach it to those three stigmas, and can we move through life with that? So that's the topic. You're the first person to know outside of the person who's mentoring me in school.
Right on.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you. That's amazing. Yeah. So what have you found so far?
A lot of reading. Right now, I'm really focused on one work by a guy named Oscar Ichazo. I bought one of his books recently, but I've been fascinated by his work up until now. And the book was called, let me make sure, Human Culture and Enlightenment. Gosh, okay. I don't know where it is. But a lot of the work that he's been writing about goes from the past all the way back when to Mithra and Zoroastrianism, and moving forward from there, from Christianity, Buddhist theology, different schools in Tibetan Buddhism as well. Right. And he's trying to find how was consciousness moved through each of those periods, and was there a level of relevancy in each one? And what I've been slowly discovering is, there's more similarities than an individualization between each person that we want to take it.
Right. I've heard that.
Yeah. And my curiosity is, when does and I would love to discuss it with you on this call, I think it would be great, but when does the I come into place? Like, when do we start to synthesize these materials, individualize it, own it, and kind of slowly disregard the we aspect of civilization, which at the core, majority of these tenets were treated holistically. They were treated as a group, as a level of unity. When did the splits start to take off between these different routes? And that's one thing that I've been really curious about to attach to this work that I'm trying to produce.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like throughout history, kind of like you were just saying, there's periods where it's almost like history repeats itself as far as spirituality is concerned. Like there appears to be certain parts in time where there's a vast, for lack of a better term, spiritual awakening happening amongst people. And it seems to correlate, from what I've noticed, around when there's something fairly sinister going on in the world otherwise. Whether it be a massive outbreak of plague or a pandemic or something of that nature, it seems that those spikes see the same spikes with spirituality.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And the interesting thing is, this week I had a conversation with an amazing group of people, and one person brought up this topic. It's like, now we're being so isolated. With social distancing, with people staying at home more than ever. Right. And this is happening on a global scale. And now I'm finding that more people are actually having to spend more time with themselves alone. And if
it's a forced retreat.
It's a forced retreat, right? And if somebody isn't prepared for this level of isolation, it's going to be a very intense experience.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The only thing that prepared me for it was I've been to jail before. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing that you learn from, you have as a reference point for you in life.
Absolutely. And it's like an anchor I have.
Sure. And you can still improve upon that through a lot of the work that you're doing with the Dharma. I mean, the Dharma is so extensive in really diving down to a level of self-awareness. Right. Honestly, understanding who you are, at the depths of the core of you, right? Which is a beautiful level of work to do. So that level of isolation that's happening now, I think for your path could be very beneficial. And I think, quantitatively for the whole, for humanity, but we have to be gentle about it. Yeah. That's my belief personally.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, my involvement with the Dharma actually started when I did go to jail. That's where I first started delving into Buddhism and the Dharma.
I know. I'm actually really curious how that happened.
Long story. I can make it real short though. I was arrested for. I knew a guy that was trafficking heroin. I was using it at the time. I didn't know he was trafficking, so to speak, but I guess that trafficking just means the weight. It doesn't mean the actual activity of bringing, but anyway, so he ended up getting arrested, and because I was purchasing from him, he gave up pretty much everybody that he was selling to. Mm-hmm. And so I got arrested for the same charges. So I was charged with conspiracy to traffic heroin over 28 grams, but less than 30 kilograms. So I get arrested and I'm sitting in jail and my bond's $50,000. There's no way I'm going to be able to pay it. because, well, first of all, I didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like I was not guilty of that crime. And so I'm sitting in jail with a bond that I can't afford for a crime that I didn't do, and looking at a 25-year minimum mandatory sentence. And it was kind of dark for a little while, you know, very unexpected. The fact that I was coming off of heroin didn't help at the time. But I found a book there, just browsing on the bookshelf one day by a guy. His name was Bo Lozoff. He's passed away now, but he was a follower of Ram Dass, and he wrote this book that was geared towards prisoners called Free on the Inside. I'm sure you can get the gist of the title.
Right.
And so I read that, and it was like, you know, look, use this time, use the jail like your monastery, like just, you know, meditate, and like, you know, kind of walked you through how to, you know, do a basic meditation. And like, that's where I really started meditating at, and really kind of delving into the Dharma as much as I could with the material I had available anyway. But that's kind of what got me started. That was in like 2014. So.
And did you notice a ripple effect with the other people that you crossed paths with in jail, like doing the Dharma work? How did that work? And the only reason why I'm asking is I know, you know, personally way back when, I think like 8 years ago, when I was pretty much focusing on social work before I moved to psychology,
right.
A lot of the programs were really heavily Christian based.
Right.
That they were introducing. I haven't really found one that was in my neck of the woods that was really Dharma focused. So it intrigues me that this has been working, which is a beautiful thing.
Well, that's the thing is, like I said, I found the book on the bookshelf, and I think that someone had you know, somebody had sent it in to somebody, and they had left it there. It's nothing that was actually in place at the institution. Nothing like that existed. In fact, anytime that I've been institutionalized and I've tried to get any kind of Buddhist materials, it's been pretty much next to impossible. You know, I spent months and months trying to get any kind of Buddhist material in there, and it never actually happened. The only way I was able to get anything in was in certain facilities, you're able to have people send in books from Amazon and things like that. So I was able to get some things, but I noticed there was, you know, especially down here, I'm in the Panhandle of Florida area. I'm in like the deep South area. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty Bible Belt down here. It's pretty right-wing Christian, you know,
right.
It's Trump country down here. So not a lot of people into Buddhism down here, unfortunately, but there were some people that seemed to be interested in what I was doing. I'm sure they thought I was fucking crazy. That's where, you know, as I'm sitting there meditating on my fucking bunk, they're like, this fucking guy.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, that was my path. And like, some people seem to have some sort of interest in it. I met a couple people that kind of practiced, you know, some sort of Eastern philosophy, but they were very few and far between.
Wow. That's incredible. And I'm happy that you were able to use this. And you said this helped you also kick the habit of heroin. Was it the Dharma or was it?
Eventually. The Dharma has been hugely instrumental in kicking and staying clean from heroin.
Wonderful.
But I went to a holistic rehab at the end of 2018, and it was a lot of Eastern philosophy, kind of Buddhist based thing. They didn't really call it Buddhism, but it was kind of like Buddhism light. Like
sure.
Sure. But
absolutely.
Then that kind of got me a little more involved in, and then that's really where I really started to pay attention and focus on the Dharma. Was after I got out of rehab.
That's excellent. And I'm glad that it's something that it's based on our first conversation we had, I think like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Something like that.
I'm glad that you're able to instill this and integrate it into multitudes of aspects of your life. It's a beautiful thing when you witness somebody start and continuously always weave that web of integration between multiple facets of their lives. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I'm still trying to hack my brain in some aspects. It works for me. Definitely for the staying clean. It works for that. I've been having some weird anger issues lately. I don't know. Maybe I don't eat enough. Maybe I'm just not getting enough sleep. I don't know. You know, maybe it's I'm like I was saying earlier, maybe I spread myself too thin. I'm not really sure what it is.
Yeah.
But
a lot of times, if I would love to speak on that, if that's okay. With today, I was having a conversation with my fiance. I recently got engaged, and
congratulations.
Thank you so much. It took two of us to tango. So she said yes. Thank goodness. And the conversation we had today was honestly about awareness. And the one thing that I was telling her is anytime that I find myself feeling anxious, or if I find myself feeling as broad as this may sound, unaligned with what I think I should be doing, in those moments, I really try to, and it doesn't happen all the time, maybe far from few.
Right.
I try to have a level of awareness on the most minuscule things from a physiological level. And what that is like my breathing. Am I breathing improperly? Like, am I panicking? What's actually causing this?
Right.
In those moments, using the word spread yourself thin, when you feel those moments and you feel sprouts of anger come up, those are prime moments in life where we can really hone in and try to examine what's actually occurring.
You see, that's the trick, though. It's because when those things are happening that it's the easiest to lose sight of that mindfulness, of that awareness.
It's the easiest to lose. You're completely correct. I think it's easiest to lose that sight, but it's also the easiest to hone in on.
Right. Yeah. I could see how that would be the case too.
And that takes the word that the Dalai Lama loves, discipline.
Yeah. And that's where you put the work in, that's where the rubber meets the road right there is. And I think that's what I've been struggling with lately, to be honest, is just, sometimes it just feels like it gets just so overwhelming that it just like everything I've learned and everything that I know to be true is like whoosh, just out the window, and my thoughts are off to the fucking races and I can't stop it.
Sure.
But
if I can ask you a question, what has been one thing that, it's totally a human experience. And we all have it. We're not all roboticized in
I'm
any
working
way.
on it, man. I'm working on it.
You're working on it. So for me, it's one of those things where we have strengths, in positive psychology, it's all about strengths. What are the character strengths that we have within ourselves? A lot of times with even like typology tests that people take, strength finders, disc assessments, Enneagram, all these things, we find ourselves so personally identified with what these results are. But as long as for me, I'll speak about myself, in the moments where I feel anxious and panicking, as long as I'm not identifying with saying that is who I am, who I am, then I can actually grow from that. I don't have all the strengths. I also have weaknesses, but no one has it all. So I think in those moments, you have the capability to open up. I have the capability of opening up my heart a little bit, opening up my awareness, and rather than exceed and go up, which can happen at times, human, at that peak moment of experience, anxiety and the spreading myself too thin moments, I want to basically start to stitch it together and say, what's causing this to actually happen? Right. These moments in time when each of us it's way back when, before psychology even existed, those were moments where people would try to sit with their thoughts to understand what exactly was going on. Right. Granted, different time period, different things to worry about, different stresses, and different attitude towards it. But there's some people and some sages who would actually look into that and try to examine it at a deeper level. I mean, that's essentially what the Buddha did. It was just deep psychology. Sure. But, and it's scattered across tons of history. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Multiple figures in history. Absolutely. Yeah. Like I was saying, that's just, and that's why they call it a practice, because it's, I don't think it's ever going to, I don't know if I'll ever be perfect. I don't know who is. Maybe the Dalai Lama himself. I've never met somebody who's perfect yet. If anybody who's listening to this has, they should email us or email you to let us know who that person is. Right. Yeah. I'd love to talk to them for sure. Of course. And perfection is such an interesting thing. A few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was reading a book. I think it's The Golden Words of a Sufi Sheikh. And in it, the whole topic, at least like one little part of it, was on perfection and desire. And a lot of times anger would flare up with some people, or pride may flare up with some people, because we imagine there to be a perfect moment out there, a perfect experience in life. And by us chasing it, it's like the endless chase. It's like, you're never going to get it. Yeah. Life will be perfect when. Right. And which is not true. Like, we have this magical concept sometimes in life, and more so than now, from a research perspective in psychology and things from the meta world, esoteric theology and metaphysics, there's people who, there's an increase of anxiety. There's an increase of depression, more so than ever, at least more so noted than ever before in history. Right. Maybe that's due to the rise of the instant gratification culture that we're currently merging into, or the ideas that we have with the lens of the instant gratification culture that perfection actually exists out there. Right. So it doesn't. It doesn't exist. It's not real. And on top of it, when I say perfect and you say perfect and somebody else, maybe Jenny from North Carolina, says perfect,
They're completely different things.
Completely different things.
I was going to say that. I was going to say, you know, perfection is it's as individual as reality. You know, because
Yes.
everyone's reality is entirely different. So like their
Yes.
idea of perfection is going to be different. So yeah, it just doesn't exist.
And with that, like if I sit on that daily as a daily practice, whether it's through meditation or just a focus, I personally just feel a level of ease in moving forward in life, because I know that there's no truth to that concept of perfection that I have in my life or my existence or my reality.
Right.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And it's so easy to cling to that, like that, you know, next thing, that next accomplishment, whatever it happens to be, you know, that next big purchase, whatever puts that smile on your face, you know.
It's the capitalistic culture of the West. No.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. But I do it with accomplishments too, like, you know, just like achievements, like and personal milestones, you know, like I'm going back to school in January, which is astounding for me because I haven't been to school since like 2009. So yeah,
it's right. You know, and for me, I'm
terrified.
It's not. If I can tell you one thing, do not be terrified. For me, it took a 3 or 4 year stint from out of school to starting grad school.
Right.
And coming into it, I was afraid. I was nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I've already forgot a lot of things. I forgot. I think I can write, but I don't know if I can write again at an academic level. Like, I don't know if I'm prepared for this. And what do I have to lose? It's that kind of mentality. And I'm not chasing the accolade. I'm not chasing the end of it. I'm utilizing this as a tool because I want to serve people in a way that can actually help them and benefit them to discover a little bit more of who they really are. And this is my vehicle. This is my vessel to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's so important to note that you said you're not focused on the end goal. You just head down doing the work. And that's I'm so big on that. And like, I espouse that to everyone. I'm like, you know, just go ahead and get rid of the outcome. Like, just put that out of the picture. Don't even worry about the outcome. Just do the work. Yeah.
And again, it could be easier said than done for some folks.
Much easier. It's easier said than done for me. And I fucking tell people that shit all the time. I've got great advice. I'm just really bad at taking my own really good advice.
Right. With a lot of us are, you know, with me, a lot of times, even with food, like, anxiety comes, the first thing I go to is food. I love snacks. I love to snack and eat. And I know certain foods are not the best to consistently eat, and some foods are more beneficial for me, but I should pride myself on taking my own advice as well. So daily practice, right? Daily practice.
Yeah. That's something for everyone to pay attention to as well, to take your own advice.
Right.
That could be like, you're probably telling everybody else to do the right thing. And then you're yourself judging yourself for some shit you're fucking up. And it's just take your own advice. And like I said, I'm guilty of not doing it for sure. I'm 100% guilty of not doing it. In fact, I don't do it most of the time. And it's really just lately that I'm noticing that more and more and more. It's like, wow, I really should just shut the fuck up and take my own advice.
Yeah, I agree. I can understand that fully. And I would take that in for myself too. But with awareness, I know for sure we can agree on this. With awareness comes action. Right. I think it's also important to have a level of gentleness through the actions that we take, rather than being so abrasive towards ourselves. Each moment, if we're granted with another moment in time in life, that's another lesson that we can impart and learn upon our path. So with awareness, with action, we should also be a little bit more gentle on ourselves and forgiving.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something I struggle with as well, is I'm a very harsh taskmaster towards myself. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, can you explain that actually a little bit more? What do you mean?
I'm very disciplined and very regimented. And if I don't do all the things that if I set out to do in a day, like I just have this overwhelming feeling of just, shit, just like got in depression, I would guess, like I've let myself down in some way, which in all actuality, all I've done is achieve things throughout the day. I just didn't achieve to that level. I set this idea of perfection for myself. Right. And, as we said, that doesn't exist really. So hence me spreading myself too thin. I think I'm just trying to do too many things.
Yeah. So with that whole concept, I can relate to it. I think anybody who's human can relate to that whole thing at a level for their own journey.
Right.
For me, if I remember a point in my life when I didn't or wasn't able to forgive myself for certain things, and I would find myself being very hard on myself. And those moments would come with anger. Honestly, sometimes it would come with shame based on an expectation. Like I'm ashamed that I couldn't do this, and forget asking or seeking for help because of me feeling that level of shame. I wouldn't have the courage or the bravery to essentially seek out a level of assistance. So in one's journey to discover a new wave of loving and forgiving for themselves, we have to be brave, and we also have to have a component of resiliency in each step that we take. But again, I'm going like full circle, being gentle every single step along the way. It's so critically important. It's so critically important to do. Patience and discipline are required. Patience, if not as equal to discipline throughout the entirety of the thread. But those two tenets are very, very important ingredients to sprinkle with each component that I just laid out. Patience and discipline through it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that can be another difficult thing, man. Just having the patience with yourself.
Yeah. Well, what's one way that you think we can make it easy? Humans can have it easy.
You tell me.
For myself, what I found in my life, and I'm looking on a whiteboard here because I write down certain things each day that I want to focus on. And the first word that I have is love. If I want to give love, and I love giving love and I love serving people, I mean, that's how we first met. Like I genuinely want to connect with as many people as I can.
Right.
For there's no selfish agenda that I personally, there was times where I had pride for sure. And sometimes that still comes up, but now I'm at a point in my life where if I want to live that tenet of love, it's required of me to give myself fully to humanity where I can and when I can. So that aspect of human kindness and being kind to each other gives me a level of patience and gives me a level of resilience along the way. Everything that I do, it comes back to that same thread. So studying positive psychology, writing poetry, doing the work to do a nonprofit, or figuring out how to actually organize a nonprofit and get grants funded the right way. It's all taking so much of my time. And if I rewind back the clocks 10 years ago, I would not be able to do it. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't have a level of patience. I wouldn't have a level of new wave of energy because I would have missed the point. I would have been seeking positive psychology for a diploma. I would have been seeking to being an author just to finish a book. I would have been seeking a nonprofit, maybe to get accolades or a claim to fame in some way. Now, when I look at everything, each of them all go back. And it's almost like it's recycling towards love. I'm doing positive psychology in service to love. I'm writing books in service to love. I'm doing the nonprofit in service to love. And the core tenet that I really, really want to empower each person that I cross paths with is for them to remember who they truly are. And if my writing can convey that, it maybe clean off the slate a little bit for the other person to see the gem that they always were. Right. I love it. I'm filled. I'm blissed out from that. So my end all goal is to make sure that I lead my level of life through that tenet, and all else would follow. But 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to see that. I would have been chasing the accolades. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I love that. That's so powerful.
It took a long time to get here. Or lifetimes. Depends on which one you want to go by.
Right. Absolutely.
Which scale of time we want to go on this call. Both. It took a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. I can see that. And just in your demeanor, man, and the way you carry yourself and your outlook on the world and your outlook on love. I can see you've put the work in, man. You really have. And
do you want to know something beautiful?
What's that?
If you can really see that in me, or if a person who's listening to this can really feel that through the words that we're conversating, then they are divinely ordained with the grace that they see within me. It's just a reflection. Whatever you truly see in me, and you can witness it and tap into it, say, oh, that's a beautiful thing. I can hear it and I can feel that love. It's because it's within you too.
That's even more powerful.
It's the truth. We cannot see something that is not an extension of who we are, whether it's in the shadow realm or the darker aspects that we haven't explored yet, or it's sailing above ground within our personality. So thank you for seeing yourself through me. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you too, man. It's funny because I noticed when I was just talking to a friend of mine earlier today, and it was kind of a carryover from a conversation we were having yesterday about the exact same thing, but in more of the shadow realm, when you see people's faults, that's, you're looking at your own flaws, basically. But, and that's why I understand what you're saying is, why wouldn't that exist on the opposite end of that spectrum? Yeah. And another thing, even because you alluded to the shadow realm and a lot of work, that comes down to, older mythic cultures would examine one's shadow, from Plato, from Socrates as well, to more modern day Jungian therapists who would do, shadow work. And there's a lot more people nowadays. I feel like there's a reemergence of the culture that was in the 70s or the late 60s of a psychedelic renaissance, almost, where people now are put in a place where they want to explore deeper aspects of who they really truly are, or their identity. Right. With that comes an exploration of the shadow, of one's shadow, I believe. I'm no expert on this. The one thing that I was interested in is that positive psychology, at one point, Martin Seligman, the guy who coined the term positive psychology, was the president, I believe, or maybe VP of the American Psychological Association. However, positive psychology isn't represented in weight as other dimensions are within the States. So I'm studying it out of the UK in a school, and actually a guild outside of a school in the UK. And the cool thing that I'm seeing how now reemerge is they're tying in positive psychology with an emphasis on shadow work. So how can we take the dark side, but also the character strengths that each of us have? Because looking at you, Justin, and hearing your story, you have to have a component of resilience, because you went through a lot of peak experiences in your life, a ton. Yeah.
just to have my opportunity of talking to, via Zoom, not even in person. Right. So you have to have a level of resiliency. Now, where can we take that character strength, the resilience, and work on another shadow component of your life? Not throwing that archetype out, but how can we take resilience to examine the shadow components of your reality and your existence? If I'm facing pride, if pride is a big thing for me, how can I use love and kindness to examine the lens of pride, to maybe have that pride diminish slowly in the lens of humility, really being more humble about it? So can I take my character strengths to use in the dark side? And that's a cool thing that's actually happening now in the space of positive psychology. Actually, I can't even just say that. It's happening a lot in multitudes of domains, from, practitioners out in South America to the Netherlands to the States, like doing alternative therapies. And it's crazy to say that it's alternative therapies, because they're therapies than a lot of things that I'm studying now. And but I'm happy and glad that and hopeful that there's a large emergence of this. But my only red flag is I sense that the right ingredients are here, but a lot of people aren't really following a recipe.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So that's my flag, but that's my hope. I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle path right now with that.
Yeah, that's right where you want to be, man. Right in the middle path, right?
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I think on our first call I told you so nobody can see what's in our background. So I only have books, but you have a beautiful tapestry behind you, so it's like a mega beautiful thing. And I told you that I was at Alex Gray's Cosm, in the summer.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Which was amazing. Me and my then girlfriend, now fiance, we were there for a beautiful, beautiful night with a group of friends, and there was at least 100, maybe 130, 140 people. It wasn't this summer. I think it was a year ago, last summer before COVID. And that was a space that I can tell that a lot of people were searching for something, and they were trying to tap into different mediums. So the ingredients were really there, but there was no core recipe being followed. Right. And so I have high hopes for seeing a new reemergence of this within our society. I just hope that we can take the wisdom that we learned in the late 60s and early 70s in our history and tie it into a very modern approach today.
Do you think there even is a recipe?
Do I think there's a recipe? No, but I think there's multiple recipes that one can follow. Yeah.
Right.
So I can find somebody from my heart.
I suppose it'd be very individual as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Almas, I don't know if you've ever heard of a man named A.H. Almas.
No.
He wrote a book called, and anytime you guys hear me pause, I'm like reaching behind me for one of the books. He wrote a book called The Elixir of Enlightenment.
Okay.
And Almas had an approach called the diamond approach, or the diamond heart approach, I believe. But in this book, The Elixir of Enlightenment, he was talking about a teaching and a teacher. And the responsibility of a true teacher is taking the level of consciousness that the individual is at, plus their story, and attaching it to a teaching, to a work, to a recipe for that person to follow. So yeah, I totally believe that it's individualistic, but it's also very rare I believe, to find someone out there to stitch that all together for one, to help.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably the hardest thing.
It's very rare. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, keep looking, everyone. Maybe you'll find that person.
And I do believe so. For me, I'm blessed to have somebody that's my teacher. His name is Dr. Carlos Warder. I great friend, great teacher, truly a master at the craft, master at what he does, in my opinion. And if one opens up their heart, and if one is seeking, certain things slowly start to come in their lives, whether it's I'm, in a jail without any Dharma books, and all of a sudden there's one Dharma book that just shows up on a shelf out of nowhere and that picks it up. To I feel lost in college, I feel lost in school, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want to do. Then all of a sudden you end up in a Starbucks, let's say, or a Whole Foods or a cafe, whatever it may be, and one person just taps you on your shoulder, they sit down for a 30-minute conversation, and you never see that person again. And they put you along on a path that you start to cross with certain people that make this ordinary world a little bit more magical every day.
Yeah. I've been fortunate to come across a few different people like that in my life.
Sure.
So, and like I said, it was that, as you mentioned, and we were talking about earlier, just finding that book to kind of set me initially on what I would term my spiritual path. And then the opportunity to go to the facility that I went to, the rehab facility, and it was massively helpful for me. And I'm working actually with a really amazing Dharma teacher right now, Mikey Noshell out of Nashville, and he's helped me a lot. I pretty much talk to him every week.
Beautiful.
It's necessary.
I agree.
Helps keep me focused and helps kind of direct me. Where he thinks I need to be. And I trust him, man. I trust him implicitly. I love him a lot. I hope he hears this. Yeah, beautiful. And that level of love is going to make the work. Carlos always tells me the three very important tenets to have in life are meditation, service, and holy company. And if you have those three stitched together within your path, you start to see unity on a global scale. Yeah. When you're serving others, whether it's having a call with somebody that, almost like the first time me and you met, quick call, we just greet each other, just connected at that level, in service to the greater good. Meditating, and meditation could be sitting on a bunk bed, making or reciting interesting mantras that maybe no one knows what you're saying, to someone listening to music and painting on a palette that's blank to come up with something so intriguing and interesting, or weaving a tapestry. And holy company is surrounding yourself with people who are open-hearted, where you can not only see an extension of yourself, but you can also see extension at a global scale and a global level. Almost as if you're sitting in a Dharma circle and it's just 9 of you, but within each person, you can see certain etches of who you are within them. And you can implicitly place that at a global scale just to see oneness in everything. Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think those are all very important. And I think community is hugely important. Yes. I think meditation is very important as well. But all three, definitely. I agree. I think if you don't have any one of those, that the rest of them kind of fall short. I think you need all three. Sure. Yeah. I agree. I mean, clearly you're the one that said it first. That's why I agreed twice. That's how important it is. It is. It's super important. But and it's, you kind of mentioned something earlier, just in passing about, can't even remember how you phrased it, but just asking for help, and sure. it's so hard for people, and myself included, a lot of times to reach out to people when you're when you need help, whether you're going through something mentally or physically, or you just need help with a project, whatever it happens to be. People, it's so hard to drop your pride sometimes and just say, look, I'm having a hard time here, and if you could help me, that'd be great. Like that's been a big struggle for me. And I don't even know if it's just I don't think it's a pride thing, because I'm not a very prideful person. I don't think I am. Maybe I am. I don't know. I don't think so, though. I think it's more just, I don't want to, I think if I reach out for help in any aspect, I more feel like a burden at times. Like, I don't want to burden people with my problems, because everybody's going through their own shit. But then I deprive them of that act of service, by not reaching out. So
you just answered your question.
Well,
with what you said, it's a fundamentally important thing. If you look at history, I was reading about Indonesian culture in Bali before, even tourists would go to Bali. It was just, Indonesian culture, the Bali culture, where if somebody was feeling fear, or they were scared of something, the whole community would come together and wrap themselves around that person just to give whatever they have. And whether it was that contact, that level of love, that caress and care, they would do that because they know that it's important. Our westernized culture, I'm viewing, has becoming hyper individualistic. With that hyper individualisticness comes a non-care to open up and have somebody else care for you. Yeah. When one has the courage to open up, a lot of things flow through that. When one has the courage to really open up, it's as if you have fertile soil and you're planting a seed of hope in it, and hope will slowly start to emerge and grow. And it's unfortunate because even with anxiety and depression, the nonprofit that I want to start, it's based on that whole premise. And it's something that I see, like, I don't know if you know the suicide hotline.
Yeah.
Suicide hotline. A few friends of mine in my own history committed suicide. And the suicide hotline is a great tool. It's a federally funded it's a great tool, but it happens at the peak moment when somebody is at the crisis point.
Right.
From the peak moment, slanted all the way down, right, on an x-axis to when they're kind of neutral or having these panic episodes. There's nothing to support them outside of maybe psychotherapy and some free services out there.
Right.
I truly feel there should be a community-based service out there that instills and helps people along the way prior to that peak experience of depression, anxiety actually come. And that comes with service. So I encourage anybody who's listening to this, you, Justin, me, Ibrahim as well, to do this. If you feel hopeless, or if you feel you just need somebody else to lean on, ask the people around you. And if you don't have anybody around you, reach out. Social networks nowadays, they should be used for a lot of things that I think we're not even using them for.
Absolutely.
It can be utilized for a community that's such a large scale and a level of unity to serve each other when we actually need each other the most. So it's very important to do that. And if somebody ever needs to reach out, they can find me. I'm certainly sure they can find you, Justin, as well, or find anybody else from their system to help them. But there's always somebody here. So it's important to seek help and seek guidance, because you're giving the other person on the other end also the ability to serve you too, which is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so interesting that there's nothing on that, if you were to put it on an axis, like we were talking about, that there's nothing on the plane to help people. There's nothing there. And like you said, other than maybe a few free programs or, some sort of like state-run mental health that's almost impossible to get into. There's really nothing to help people. And that's so just tragic, man. It's tragic.
Yeah. And there's more people, I think, that are out there that are looking to start these things. Like, I'm noticing a bigger leap of that. My whole angle is I want it to be a free service, completely either federally funded or through grants through private organizations to help people in need. And I want to have a split. So it's called Daily Drop of Love. There's been extensive research on daily tasks of gratitude. There's been extensive research saying like, hey, if you write out maybe 5 things every single day that you're grateful for, every single day, even if you don't want to do it, it's just like going to the gym or doing another task. If you do that every single day, things start to shift and change within your life. So Daily Drop of Love, the whole concept came out to have a text-based service for free, in service for anybody to opt in, and they'll get a dose of that with an actual task to test and do. And if they have a question or comment, it'll go directly to the moderator of that channel privately, and they can have a one-on-one conversation through that. The other channel, I also wanted to have a social educational avenue where this would actually be accredited within institutions like high schools, elementary schools, in all areas across the board, where a teacher, a nurse, or even students who want to embrace other kids that may need a little bit of love and need a little bit of hope, need a little bit of help, can, with proper techniques that I think everybody should be instilled with and have. Yeah. So that's where I wanted to come, because as you alluded to in that plane, there's a beginning drop of that to happen. And that's where I do deeply believe that I want to take this organization to, because I know it's needed. And again, it's all in service to love, which comes down full circle to the main point of why I'm doing everything.
That's awesome, man. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I hope everything goes well with that.
It'll always work out.
Hey, man, it works out exactly the way it's supposed to.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you at right now?
So if somebody wants to find me, the easiest way is probably either to Google my name. If somebody wants to opt into Daily Drop of Love, I do have the number somewhere, and I always have it on a post-it note because I always forget it. But it's a 202 number. See, that's how you have to know my memory is not serving me to the best of my days. That's probably the grad school. So it's 202-918-3327. 202-918-3327. Then they opt in. That's Daily Drop of Love. Every day I send out a message. Hopefully once it gets funded, I want to be able to have other individuals on there, like therapists, practitioners, teachers in their own regards, theologians in their own regards, to essentially post and send out messages to people on a daily. They're super short, and also including a daily task for people to do. I know last week, one of the tasks that I sent out for the people that are on it was to reach out to one person to let them know how they actually impacted them in a positive way in their phone book that they have not talked to. Because we all have phone books in our phones that I know for sure that there's people that are in there that we haven't spoken to in 5 years or 6 years.
Oh, if not longer.
And it changes, like things actually change. When I get a message back from somebody who did that, say, oh my God, like that shifted my whole day. I haven't reached out to this person like 7 years. I didn't even know what they were doing, and it actually helped me out in my life in an area that I didn't even know I needed help.
Man, that's such a cool idea, man. I love that you're doing that. That's just amazing. I love it. Yeah.
In service to everybody. Remember, service is the most important thing. So that's what I'm doing this, and it's all connected to love. And I love love. So if anybody reads my poetry book, if they find it any which way, how, it's called The Threads That Weave the Universe. It is an ode to love. And I have a copy behind me. Oh, right over here, actually. No. Threads That Weave the Universe. And if they like Rumi, if anybody likes Rumi or Rumi's teacher, Shams Tabrizi, a lot of the words are written in the same style. Very short and very beautiful. So
that's fantastic.
And the proceeds go directly to a nonprofit. So it's another good thing.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, thanks for fucking being on the show. It's been the best conversation I've had with somebody in quite a while. Not to detract from any of my previous guests, but like, there's just, man, it just resonated with me. This conversation just really resonated with me. And I'm super happy to have met you. And I look forward to staying in touch with you. And I wish nothing but the best for you, man. I love you.
I love you too. And hopefully we're in touch for lifetimes.
Absolutely.
That's how we work it. I love you too.
For sure. Have a good night, man.
You too, brother.
Thanks again to Ibrahim for being on the show. And if you want to get in touch with him, he can be found at IbrahimSharkas.com, which I will put a link to in the liner notes of the episode. Also, if you did want to opt in to Daily Drop of Love, the telephone number for that is 202-918-3327. Again, that's 202-918-3327. I also wanted to thank Mikey No-Shell and Andrew Chapman of Wild Heart Meditation Center. If you're really interested in studying the Dharma or immersing yourself in a dedicated meditation practice of any sort, I highly recommend you check out their website at wildheartmeditationcenter.org or just reach out to them. There are online classes available. Unfortunately, due to the COVID thing, there's nothing on site happening at the moment, but feel free to reach out to them. I can't say thank you to those guys enough. Anyway, this has been episode 30. Namaste.
Chaos is beautiful.